John 6:10. Dixit ergo Iesus, facite homines discumbere, erat autem finum multum in loco. Discubuerunt ergo viri numero quasi quinque milia. Therefore Jesus said, make the people sit down, and there was a lot of grass in that place. Therefore they sat down, namely men in number about 5,000. There's a couple interesting things to notice in this verse. Again, we're still talking about the feeding of the 5,000 here. First of all, this construction, facite, a form of facio, I should say, plus an infinitive. In classical Latin, that kind of construction is rare. What we would expect, rather, is a form of facio plus ut, plus a subjunctive. That's called an object clause. You probably remember learning about those in one of your textbooks, but that's not what we get, just facio with a straight infinitive here. Make them to do this, literally. In English, maybe we would say have them sit down. So again, this is not a common construction in classical Latin, but by the time of the translation of the Vulgate and of the translation of the New Testament into Latin even before Jerome's Vulgate, that is, in the later parts of antiquity, this kind of expression apparently is more common. And it has the advantage here, as so often, of more closely mirroring the Greek construction, even though by classical terms that would strain the Latin idiom a little bit. In late antiquity, apparently it's not as big a deal, and more or less the Latin equivalent is pretty common at that point. So therefore he said to them, make the people sit down, and we've got to insert like a semicolon or something for our English brains here. Autem probably doesn't have adversative force here, but is just a connective. And, or since, or for, there was finum. Not just finum, but multum finum. Erasmus comments here in his 16th century annotations that really a word like herba or gramen would be more appropriate. Those are words which mean grass. Finum generally means hay, although this usage here may indicate that the boundaries, semantic boundaries of that word in late antiquity were a little bit fuzzier than we think they were, because somebody thought it was appropriate to use here. Hard exactly to say. But by classical standards, certainly Erasmus would be right. Herba or gramen are the common words for grass here. So there was a lot of grass in that place. We don't need a demonstrative here. We can just say in the place, more or less. Though in translating into English, we can be a bit flexible and say in that place. Therefore, discubuerunt viri, the men sat down. And notice this isn't homines. This is men, that is specifically males. We don't use this word for human beings in general. Generally, we use it only of the males. So men, the men sat down, and the number of the men in number, quasi here meaning not as if, as it sometimes does, but actually about. That is to say, approximately. You're all going to make comments now about how Canadian I sound when I say about. I have friends who say, Canadians say aboot, but I've never said aboot. I think I say it normally. Anyhow, quasi, about, or approximately 5,000 men, which means the total number of people was actually probably much larger because presumably there were women and children present as well.